A woman struggling to survive in what seems to be a male-dominated world meets a few women and a friendship is born. But when a heated disagreement turns deadly, there will be only one survivor who believes she can outrun law enforcement while toting their bodies hidden inside her suitcases. My name is M. William Phelps. I'm an investigative journalist and the New York Times best-selling author of dozens of true crime books. I've dedicated the past 25 years of my life to helping families of the missing and murdered. Join me. We're crossing the line. I have what is an interesting case for you this week. It's one of those strange crime noir saga-like stories in which a lot of people have speculated over the years and filled in the blanks. It's one of those cases that just doesn't seem real, and yet, sadly, all of it is. At 19 years old, Winnie McKinnell had grown up a bit sheltered, being a minister's daughter and living in small-town Darlington, Indiana, during the 1920s. By 1924, Winnie marries a local doctor, 38-year-old William Judd, a man almost 20 years her senior. Darlington is a railway hub town, charming, its people quiet and resolute. It was a time when, as a young woman, you were expected to marry, have kids, and live a quiet life. I don't think in this case love had much to do with this marriage. Winnie had this look about her, very much a Greta Garbo-like Hollywood starlet vibe, with her straight, flat dark hair parted on one side and cut just above her chin. A thin, lean face, along with the sharp facial features of a model. Truly a beautiful woman, which I believe had an impact on this story, as it often does. Think Jodi Arias, Casey Anthony, etc. Beautiful women, despite what they have done or how horrible they are, seem to get the most press. It's sickening and says a lot about who we are, actually. With not a lot of work in Darlington, Indiana, the Judds began moving around, trying to find the right place to settle down. They had even once moved south for a spell into Mexico before deciding to give Los Angeles a shot. Within that time, Dr. Judd, with access to an abundance of medicines, became addicted to what the research says is simply a drug, which I am going to guess was morphine or laudanum, both very much accessible back then, laudanum being an early version of opium or heroin. During this time, Winnie begins to develop a cough that just will not go away. She's also tired all the time. Her chest hurts from all the hacking. She struggles to keep any weight on. Soon, her doctor-addict husband diagnoses Winnie with what so many at the time were predisposed to: TB, tuberculosis. By 1930, Winnie has had enough of not only her drug-addict husband and being in a loveless marriage, but the city of angels as well, Los Angeles. And so she moves to Phoenix, Arizona, where the air is drier and much better for her condition. The drug addict doctor stays in Los Angeles. Phoenix was a city bursting with people. From 1920, before Winnie arrives, up until 1930, when she is firmly settled in town with roots and a job and friends. Between those years, the population explodes from 29,000 to 100,000. It is a period of significant growth, taking what was a small town in the desert to a flourishing city. Buildings going up, homes being built, and jobs in abundance. Not to forget, however, the extreme heat, and not really any way to cool down like we are so accustomed to today. Heat so intense, it made people sleep on their porches and outside during those months when temperatures soared into the high 90s and over 100 degrees for extended periods. Winnie lands a secretarial job at the Grunow Clinic, which becomes one of the city's most iconic buildings. The facility was then a one-of-a-kind medical institution, specializing in 13 different areas. Heading into 1931, just after the facility opens, Winnie meets Agnes Ann Leroy and Hedvig Sammy Samuelson, two women close to her age. The three of them seem to hit it off and become fast friends, and soon, roommates, pooling their money to rent what is a purple-colored small house, almost stuck there among tall buildings all around it, in downtown, close to the clinic where they all work. At night, the girls like to party. They play cards and they drink, and also invite men over. Soon, Winnie, still married on paper, has her eyes on one man, a wealthy lumber giant in town who goes by Happy Jack Halloran. And this is what I mean when I say saga-type true crime. You come across nicknames like Happy Jack. Jack is tall and handsome and has that look of money with his flashy suits, expensive fedora, and his businessman style of talking. Balding, with a long face and closely cropped eyes, Jack embodies wealth, which is very attractive to Winnie. Winnie has this hard exterior demeanor at times, having grown up where she did and then spending the next 10 years with a drug-addicted husband she was forced to take care of. She can come off as rough around the edges. The women she is living with begin to get on Winnie's nerves, to the point of Winnie starting to think that maybe she should move out of the Purple House. The resentment and walking on eggshells becomes too much for her, and Winnie starts to send her complaints to her husband via letters, who is still living in California, but outside Los Angeles now in Santa Monica, and apparently waiting for her to return. It's the second week of October 1931, and Winnie is enraged by her roommate Ann's behavior, later recalling how Ann was making her crazy. She couldn't think straight. She couldn't function around the woman. Part of this, some have speculated, was instigated by the two women, Sammy and Ann, Winnie's roommates, also getting involved with Jack, who was one of those guys taking on as many ladies as were put in front of him and would have him. So, Ann and Sammy obliged, only Winnie wasn't having it. She hated the ladies from moving in on, and in some cases getting with, her man, Happy Jack. On Friday, October 16th, 1931, Winnie is at work going about her day. Ann walks over to her desk and invites Winnie over to the house that night. Winnie had moved out the previous week. She just couldn't take it anymore, packed her things one night, and took off. Ann talks about having someone else come by, and perhaps they can all play some cards, just like old times. I don't think so, Winnie says. Throughout that day, Ann keeps at it, bugging Winnie to come by and party just like they had when they all lived together. Winnie keeps refusing, at one point telling Ann that she is instead going out with Jack. Basically, leave me the hell alone. There is some indication within the research that Jack was doing more for the other two ladies than just messing around with them, that he was also supporting and handing over cash to them. Winnie doesn't really know the particulars of the relationship between the three, only that she believes she and Jack are an item and dedicated to each other, and that the other girls are just trying their best to ruin what she has and take her man away from her. Renting a small apartment now, at home after work, Winnie phones Jack to set up plans for the night. He tells her he'll be at her apartment by 8 p.m., perhaps at the latest, 9 p.m. Winnie waits, and Jack fails to show up. He doesn't even call to tell her something else came up. Acting on a hunch or maybe a gut feeling, by 10 p.m., Winnie is on her way down to Ann and Sammy's purple house to see if Jack is over there. Remember now, this is a time when gossip is king. People love to talk about one another, some of it legit, most of it nothing more than made-up nonsense just to stir people up. Winnie walks into the purple house and realizes right away Jack is not there. So the ladies invite her to stick around and have something to eat, maybe a few drinks. You should stay the night, Ann and Sammy suggest. It'll be fun, just the three of them, like it was before all the trouble started. They sit down at the table and begin chatting. Quickly, though, the conversation becomes tense. The girls ask Winnie, kind of out of the blue, how Jack had originally met a woman named Lucille Moore, who also seems to be a friend of Winnie's. They mention how, while they were out one night a few days before, they had seen Winnie, Jack, and Lucille together. It's clear from the way in which they mention this that they are disgusted with Winnie for hanging around with Lucille. Why? She's been treated for syphilis, one of the ladies tells Winnie. Lucille and Jack are just friends, Winnie says. She gets the impression the ladies are digging for information, so she reminds them that she cannot talk about any medical condition Lucille might have, and the girls know this. Though she has access to medical records, Winnie reiterates how she would get fired if she ever gave out someone's records or spoke about what they suffered from. After this comment, the conversation turns even more heated. Ann and Sammy have that roaring 1920s silent film look about them. Hair parted on the side, shortly cropped just below their ears, dark lipstick, pencil-thin eyebrows, pale white faces. Well, I am telling Jack about Lucille's syphilis, Ann says at one point. This enrages Winnie. She screams at them, saying, if you do that, I am going to tell everyone you two are lesbians. Tit for tat, apparently. This was something rumored about the office and among a group of friends, but the girls ignored it. Now Winnie was saying she was going to spread it around town and confirm that it's true. This was a time, mind you, when that sort of information would have a great effect on the lives of the women. They'd be shunned. There's no record of the laws in Arizona regarding lesbianism, but homosexuality then was a criminal offense under federal sodomy laws. In any regard, for Ann and Sammy, this would have caused them social disapproval, and they would be certainly fired from their jobs and find it difficult to find work elsewhere in town. So the stakes are high here now after Winnie makes that threat. In the house, down the hallway from where they are now arguing, there is a breakfast room. There's a doorway there in the breakfast room leading into the living room. At some point, Winnie winds up in that breakfast room, maybe to cool off, trying to put some distance between her and the women. The ladies were very agitated and angry, Winnie had noticed, so she got up from the table and she walked down to that breakfast room. As Winnie is sitting, Sammy comes running down that short hallway and into the breakfast room, and she has a gun in her hand. If you tell anything about Ann at the clinic, Sammy warns, I will shoot you. Winnie is no passive woman, someone who might sit and allow herself to be shot. So she jumps up and the two women begin fighting for possession of the weapon. Ann hears the struggle, grabs an ironing board, and runs into the room and begins to beat Winnie with it. An ironing board. Then she starts shouting, shoot her, hurry. As all of this mayhem is going on, the gun goes off. Let's take a quick break here and come back. I promise you, beyond that gun firing, there are horrific things coming. Not for the faint of heart, I should say. And also, behaviors we don't generally see from female murderers. More Crossing the Line with M. William Phelps in one moment. The gun, which had gone off as the three women fought, was Winnie's. Several reports have her leaving the gun inside the house when she moved out the previous week. It's unclear why she would not have brought the weapon with her, being a single woman alone in a big city, but this is one of the questions we don't know the answer to. The story I am telling is from Winnie's account, of which she will ultimately give three slightly different versions. So keep that in mind. With that gun going off, Winnie looks down and sees that she has been shot in the hand. Sammy, however, has been shot in the chest. Within what we believe to be just a few short moments, all of this happens, and when Winnie realizes that the gun had gone off and likely killed Sammy, she then apparently panics and shoots Anne, killing her too. Scared, Winnie takes off, running down the block toward her apartment. One report has her going to a phone to call her husband in California and explain what has happened and ask him what to do. A second report has Winnie back at her apartment debating what to do when Happy Jack shows up. And Jack is drunk. Not what she needs in this moment. So she explains to Jack what just took place. Happy Jack is stunned. And there's a good chance here that he doesn't believe her because Winnie takes Jack back to the Purple House. Walking in, Jack is astonished. Winnie was not messing around. She had gone and shot the two women, killing them both. According to Jack later, he turns off the lights in the house, then checks their pulses to make certain they are dead. He closes the curtains and proceeds to pick Sammy up off the floor and place her gently on the bed. Winnie begins to clean up the house, which is a bit in tatters after the struggle they all had earlier. "I'm calling my husband," Winnie announces. "Do not call your husband," Jack says. He explains that if anyone finds out what happened, they are both going down for it. "Leave everything to me," Jack tells Winnie. Winnie looks at him, and it's clear she trusts Happy Jack. Though, I might say, I would never trust anyone who calls themselves Happy Jack. That is just me. "Bring the steamer trunk in from the garage," Jack tells Winnie. "We'll put both bodies in it, and I will bring them out to the desert." Jack has now involved himself. Winnie's hand is throbbing by this point. She had put a bandage over it, but the bullet is still lodged underneath her skin. Soon, it will become infected if not treated. "You will go to work tomorrow, you will act like none of this happened, and you will wait for me to call you," Jack says. Act like nothing happened. I love that little detail. Placing the bodies in the trunk out in the desert was only part of Jack's plan, which he does not go forward with. He now has a new idea to make sure the bodies will never be found. While Winnie is at work, Jack phones her. "I was unable to do it," he says. And please take this dialogue as paraphrase. We do not know exactly what was said, but Winnie did later talk about that night and the days that followed in great detail in a series of letters, as I mentioned. So that is where a lot of this comes from. Jack continues, "You are going to have to take the bodies on the train to Los Angeles. I will have someone, a guy named Wilson, waiting to meet you there, and he will drive you to the beach where you will dispose of the bodies." So the plan, in other words, is for Winnie to travel by train to LA with the bodies of two women in trunks and then meet Jack's contact, a dude named Wilson, and they will drive out to the closest beach and toss the bodies into the ocean? That should work. But Winnie agrees. I think what is obvious is that Jack is covering for himself here. It's very likely he had gone to the police, told them what happened, and they had devised a plan to get Winnie on that train with the bodies so they could catch her in the act with the bodies. The Arizona Historical Society has a great photo of the trunk and two smaller suitcases they claim contained the bodies. Winnie leaves work that night and heads over to the Purple House, where the bodies of her friends are inside a large trunk. A delivery driver who has been hired to transport the trunk to the train depot later confirms that Winnie was there and she had a trunk. Lifting the trunk, however, proves impossible. Two female dead bodies will weigh at least 300 pounds. Dead weight. The driver tells Winnie that the trunk is most likely over the weight limit allotted and that it will cost her a lot of extra money to ship it. She says she doesn't have any extra money. She had been calling Happy Jack for help, but he has not picked up his phone and seems to have disappeared. So Jack set her up and ditched her. That's what happened. Winnie is on her own now. She asks the delivery driver to transport the trunk to her apartment, which he agrees. I'm not sure how they got it into his vehicle or how he gets it to her apartment, but he does. Back at her apartment, Winnie begins debating what to do next. She doesn't have the money to pay the overweight fees, but what she does have is another 2 suitcases. How would she get the 2 bodies into 3 separate cases, however? You guessed it. There's some debate whether Winnie actually did all of this herself. Whether she did it at her apartment or she started at the Purple House and Jack was there to help, who knows? We must point out Winnie's size. She was a small woman and very sick with TB. How could she handle 2 full-grown women herself? Nonetheless, there was only one way for Winnie to spread 2 bodies among 3 cases. Get out a knife and saw and get to work. The facts are that Sammy's body was dismembered and placed in a suitcase, a hat box, and a small trunk. I could not find out if she actually placed her head in that hat box, but I am guessing she probably did. Ann's body stayed in the larger trunk. Winnie then filled the trunks and the other containers with miscellaneous letters and other odds and ends to cover up the bodies. Many of the letters contained some of the animosity between her and the ladies she discussed with her husband. So she was actually getting rid of motive as well. Important to note here is that Winnie would later lay all of this out in detail in a 19-page, quote, confession letter to police. She did manage to get all of the cases on that train headed to LA. She had contacted her brother, who lived nearby in California, and he agreed to pick her up at the train depot. By now, she had given up on Wilson, Jack's alleged contact there in LA. Guy probably never existed anyway. While the train pulled into the LA stop, people began to notice that the trunks and cases, number 1, smelled foul, and there was also blood and other fluids leaking out of them. Winnie's hand, according to one report, was beginning to turn black and smell, with gangrene setting in. So authorities were summoned. Local police took a look at the cases and demanded Winnie open them up. "I don't have the key," she says. And then she gets up and she leaves the train. She runs toward where she can now see her brother waiting, and the two of them quickly take off. Winnie Judd is now on the run. I'll be back in 1 minute with the conclusion of this episode. You are listening to Crossing the Line with M. William Phelps. In one of her letters, Winnie says this: "I am writing the absolute of this case in full confidence that you will use it as you see fit in your best judgment." Okay. As I mentioned earlier, murderers like to minimize their role when they decide to confess, and also play up their best qualities to relieve some of the responsibility when point in fact just shows how disturbed they really are. For example, Winnie goes on and on about how she took care of Anne and helped her out with, as she put it, necessities during one of Anne's illnesses. She mentions how Anne squandered her good intentions and much of the money Happy Jack had given her. She truly disparaged Anne in her confession, making her out to be a mean woman who took from people and gave little in return. Now, if that is all true, it doesn't matter. It is in no way, as we all know and understand, justification for murder. But in Winnie's mind, as she writes it, she believes it is. And this is what I mean by minimizing their role: justification. Winnie spent a week on the run before authorities caught up with her and arrested her on double murder. By the time her trial began, she was a celebrity. Stunningly beautiful and seemingly bright, she had won over the press. Her public image became that of a woman beaten up by the system and taken advantage of by the men in her life. William Randolph Hearst, the media magnate and one of the richest men in the country, sent Winnie $20,000 for her defense fund. Of course, she would have to give Hearst the exclusive account of her case afterward, but still, Winnie was a star. Her murder trial began on January 19, 1932, at the Maricopa County Courthouse in downtown Phoenix. The media by then were calling her the Trunk Murderess and Tiger Woman. Winnie claims self-defense, an argument I think she might have had a good shot at winning if she had made the right choices after the confrontation and called in police immediately. Though, with her varying accounts over the years that followed, it's a safe bet that she had likely killed the ladies in cold blood after they began arguing. When police arrested Winnie, she had over 100 bruises on her body, so it's clear that her story of being beaten up by the women with an ironing board could have been true. She was found guilty and quickly sentenced to death by hanging and placed on death row at the Arizona State Prison in Florence. Yet, just days before her execution, Winnie was called back to the courtroom for an insanity hearing. In 1933, she was diagnosed and then proclaimed insane by the court and moved from prison to the Arizona State Mental Hospital. She would spend close to the next 4 decades in that hospital and escape from it 7 times, one time being out on the run for 6 years. During that time she's out on the run, she had made it to Northern California, went under the name Marion Lane, and, get a load of this, worked as a nanny for a wealthy family. Imagine, a double murderer who dismembered bodies, taking care of your kids and sleeping in the same house. Winnie demanded a sanity hearing in 1969 and asked for her case to be reviewed by the state parole board. She was denied parole then. But a second parole hearing in 1971 went her way, and the governor of California signed her pardon. Upon her release, Winnie went to live in Northern California under the name Marion Lane. She died in her sleep on October 23rd, 1998, at the age of 93. I tell you, can't make this shite up. That's it for this week. Be safe. Be aware. The main source for this episode, the Winnie Ruth Judd Arizona Memory Project and the Winnie Judd Letters. Crossing the Line is executive produced by M. William Phelps, LLC, and Matthew Valentinas, Mom's Basement Management. Written by me, M. William Phelps. Audio mastering and mixing by Matt Russell. Music by Epidemic Sound. Original music written and performed by Thomas Mooney, Tom Phelps, and Matt Russell.